Hi, this is Nancy Rowe reporting on the chapter on beets, and I think most of us are familiar with beets, even if we didn't know that's what they were called. We usually think of them as sections in the newspaper, perhaps, and we probably have our special sections like the sports section. A lot of people like to go to the sports section to pick up the local scores. I particularly in the Bangor Daily, for instance, like to go to the state section because their coverage of local news, Presque Isle news, is not as good as we get in the Star Herald, and a lot of the national news would be covered better in a national magazine. So they do a good job on their state beat for us here. And a beat, defined by our chapter, is the regular coverage of a topic, a government agency, or even a geographic area. And a good reporter will develop insights and knowledge concerning his beat through good research, good sources, and persistence, and time, undoubtedly time. And an in-depth news article can really only come with learning just as much as you possibly can about your beat. Now, the larger a newspaper becomes, the more specialized as to the beats a reporter covers can become. For instance, the New York Times will have not only a Washington reporter, but they'll have a specific White House reporter as his or her only beat. Whereas something like the Star Herald will have Mr. Brino covering everything in the newspaper except sports. So that the size of the newspaper partly depends on how many beats you would have. Now, the principles for reporters covering a beat, as listed in our chapter, are to be prepared, be alert, be persistent, be there, and be wary. And no matter how important your beat is, all of these principles apply. Each one of those is pretty explanatory, with the exception, I think, of the one called be wary. I kind of wondered what that was all about. They are warning you to be wary of people in your source, of some of your sources trying to convert you or make you very much aware, trying to persuade you of their position. And I think that's true, but I think the opposite is also true, in that you need to be wary of yourself and your own preferences, that you report fairly when it's not you're not letting your preferences show through. Don't get too involved and care too much and take sides that you can't do an unbiased reporting job on your particular beat. And always remember that your readers want to know as much as possible, as soon as possible. And we're back to the issue of accuracy. They not only want to know as much as possible, but they want that information to be correct. Accuracy is vital in all beats, doesn't matter what. Now, with regard to convergences in covering beats, as in any story, one must always be looking out for the best possible ways to tell that story, and using as many options as possible. And today we certainly have a large variety of options, especially in the technological aspects. Smartphones, for instance, being able to take pictures of what's happening right there on the scene. And I think the crime beat certainly got a boost this last year when citizen journalists were using their smartphones to take pictures of what they felt were policemen chasing unarmed black men, and that was used certainly in the news. And the best reporters will undoubtedly be using more than one way to tell a story, and they will figure out different ways of showing the story and telling the story, and they yeah, anyway, okay. My concern after reading this chapter, and I guess it didn't even I didn't even need to read this, but I've always felt that sometimes reporters carry out those principles a little too much. How much persistence is a good thing? How much how much is too much? I've always cringed at reporters that are getting too close physically, and maybe even too close physically to the person or too close to the story. And I've always cringed at that, and being too persistent. So maybe there's a medium. My guess is that the best reporters are the most ones with the most persistency. I don't know whether that works out, but I think I don't remember whether this chapter mentions trust a lot in here, but I would guess that plays a large part in how successful you are on your beat, and I imagine that goes back to knowing your sources and being comfortable with them, and if you treat them well over a long period of time, they will reciprocate. So here's your beat reporter from the University Times signing off. This is Nancy Rowe.